Okay, I need to confess, I hate stand-up meetings. I understand why they exist. Managers want to know what's going on, whether someone has blockers, something needs to be resolved. Sometimes clients need to see the progress is going, teams need some way and time to coordinate. I get all of that. But from where I sit, as someone who writes code, who needs to focus on a task in order to complete it, stand-ups are usually just a burden, something that's painful. And the strangest thing that I rarely hear that people actually discuss that. Not really. So I want to discuss that. Not some kind of an expert position on that. I don't know everything, right? It's just from my own experience that I keep noticing and can't not notice. Here is the thing that actually bothers me most. When you ask developers what actually frustrates them and bothers on a daily basis, and actually StackOverflow does this research every year, the stand-up meetings rarely top the list. There might be some technical debt, complex processes, unclear requirements, right? Not meetings. And I've been thinking about that lately. Those researches doesn't mean that meetings are not the problem for tech people, engineers at most. But maybe because we are so used to them, maybe people just have accepted that meetings are a part of life, a part of work, and no one questions it anymore. For example, you don't list weather behind your window as a frustration list, you just bring a jacket or an umbrella, right? And seems like those stand-up meetings are kind of weather for the tech people already. They were running before you joined the project. After you leave the project, they will still remain. You optimize your work around them. You even accept them, and somewhere along the way, you stopped asking whether we should have them in the first place. At least in that amount. And that acceptance I would like to discuss, because I suppose that those meetings don't serve anyone in tech field. When I look at it more directly, everything around those 15 minutes, these all actually costs much more than I actually expect, and I think that most people expect it to cost. Let me be specific about this. A stand-up call at 11 a.m. is not just a 15 minutes call. It's a rough stop for your work, meaning that you can't start anything serious at 10:30 because you need to stop it and you need to stop all the thinking processes and the focus. And what's the solution? It means that I need to take something lighter, something that it's easier to put down. Then there is the meeting, and then I'm back to my desk. And if I was in the middle of something focused, something serious, it means that this thread of thoughts and plans is gone already. And picking it back takes 20 minutes, maybe even more. Actually, there is a Github research that measured this, and they found that on days with few or no meetings at all, developers stated this day to have an 82% chance of being a good day, and the crossing from 2 meetings to 3 meetings a day meant the chance of feeling that you've made progress dropped from 74 to 14%. And that actually is a pretty significant drop for one single extra meeting. And that happens every day. A stand-up is just a baseline of every working day. I'm not claiming that this happens and this context switching, it happens the same for everyone. Some people are less sensitive to context switching, and some projects try to schedule the meetings to minimize this harm. But for me, and I don't think it's unusual, these 15 minutes cost much more than. And when I try to figure out what this meeting is actually for, who is this meeting for, what it does to justify the cost, I end up asking the very same question each time. So here I want to be careful because I think it's really easy to make it an argument, developers versus management. That's not quite accurate. So there are two genuinely different needs that sitting on a stand-up. A developer thinks, do I need to resolve my questions? Do I have any blockers? Do I need to discuss them with someone? Maybe someone else, my colleague, have some blockers and we need to have a call, alright? So we need to align our tickets and our questions together. And the other's need is visibility. So managers would like to see and would like to know whether someone is stuck, whether someone is working in a way they should. For example, whether they have all the requirements that they need, or maybe they need to provide them something, right? Maybe there is something that's not visible to a manager from the outside. And both of those needs are real. I mean, I get this visibility need from a manager's perspective. They are responsible for the project, and not knowing what's happening inside the developer's work is not comfortable. It's logical, it's not irrational, I get it. And the issue is that from where I sit, from a developer's perspective, these two needs don't quite require that same meeting to happen at once. On a lot of projects that I worked, even developer's perspective is not fully represented on that call. For example, each team member may work on completely different areas of an application, and for example, something that's related to my task may not be related to your task, and I may not be that interested in that particular part of the work, because these tasks may have no connection and will not have in the future. And this connection need may be solved in a more direct way, in a more targeted way, maybe a quick message to a group chat or even individual chat for that particular person. But the visibility need from a manager's perspective remains, and probably this one keeps those meetings alive. And not because those meetings are effective, but because for people who want to see the process and the progress moving, this is actually a form of way to do so. And I don't think it makes those meetings wrong or those needs wrong, but I think we need to be honest what's driving this meeting each day. But if the visibility of the team is actual need, a daily call is the best way to provide this visibility. What do you think? That's the question we need to raise, I guess. So, speaking from my own personal experience and preferences, my own preference has always been the text form. Write what I did yesterday. Write what you are doing today. Raise any blockers you may have. Tag a direct person you need to have an answer to get from. And that's it. Post it in a group chat. So it all takes a few minutes. Nobody is forced to be present at the same time, same moment to read those messages from the group chat. No context switch. You may do your work and after that read those messages. Maybe ask direct questions if they are after those stand-up texts. And here's the thing that matters to me most, and maybe it could matter to managers as well. What's written, it stays there. You may afterwards, I don't know, in a month or so, search through those messages, reread them, forward to someone you need to forward to. So it's actual presence, it's evidence of a person's words. Because usually daily stand-up meetings, they are not recorded. What is said is gone in a couple of minutes. I mean, a lifespan of those words actually is like 15-20 minutes in a memory, and that's it, and after that it's gone. And written updates, they are trackable. Managers track what they need to track. Developers read what they are interested about in those connected tasks to theirs. Nobody has to be present at all times. I think there should be companies and teams that operate this way. There must be, I mean, why can't they exist, right? And everything operates in a sync mode. And calls happen when something is genuinely needed to be talked through in a group or so, or maybe one-on-one if that's relevant. I would be curious to hear from you if you've been on that project, because I haven't had much experience on that. Only like a couple of months in a project that used to operate like that, and for me that was extremely comfortable comparing to all other setups. But I want to be honest about what makes this setup hard to implement in the workplace. It is to trust people with their work. So managers should trust people with doing their job in a timely manner without the need to watch them regularly on a daily basis and even control them with it. And I understand that that's not a simple thing to ask, especially in a remote setting when usual non-verbal signals from others are not present, when you don't see this person next to you working on a laptop, right? This is a real concern that probably needs a dedicated separate video about that, about remote setting. So I'm not saying that a sync version of daily stand-ups in a text form is the obvious answer. Probably there should be others, and I haven't experienced many teams and projects that incorporate this into their daily work. And if you have experienced that, please share your thoughts, share your experience. Probably that would lead to a broader discussion whether we should have those daily stand-up in a conference forum or not. Maybe there is a more performant option without damaging the whole team's productivity. To be honest with you, I don't have a clear conclusion to that, because I don't see any other solution than text stand-ups, but maybe there are some. Probably there are situations when these daily meetings make sense. For example, when a team is a new team, they need to establish connections. They need to help each other to figure out about tasks, requirements, etc. And this could be done for a short period of time at the start of the project, for example, or when they need to change their approach to something, I'm not against this idea in principle as a general, but I don't like that we as workers, we don't question it at all. We take it for granted, as if we inherit it from another team or another project, as if it's something that shouldn't be questioned at all. What bothers me is that this daily stand-up thing is a kind of default, something you inherit rather than choose, whether they suit your project or team or not, whether it's working or not, because it stopped being a question like a long time ago. I'm actually curious, what's your experience on that? Whether you have different experience, whether you didn't have daily stand-up meetings at all, and how your team coordinated, how many people were in the team, because it may matter. Imagine a team of, 30 people having a daily call. It will last not 15 minutes, believe me. It will take like several hours probably. It's not a daily quick stand-up call in an agile perspective. And if your team, for example, had another setting, what was it? Was it comfortable? What it served? Whether it works or not? Did you have meetings at all during the week? Because honestly, I guess I've seen like one or two versions of this, like a quick stand-up call or maybe a long one every couple of days, but it still remains the same. Everyone at the same room, at the same online room, saying what they're doing, what they did yesterday, and everyone pretends to listen to one another. Managers is content that everyone is working, everyone seems to be working fine. Let's discuss in the comments. Maybe there are solutions to that. Maybe we could at least ask this question whether the meetings are needed at all on a daily basis.